I want to thank Gia, our sponsor, for that wonderful morning refreshing treat that you all enjoyed. My name is Kerwin Brown, and I am the president and CEO of BEMA, and it is certainly my privilege. I know you've been welcomed already, but I love welcoming you to our 2023 convention. It's certainly our hope that we bring connections. It's funny, I was just, we had a great session this morning, and then we sent you out for the morning refresher, and you're out there connecting, and then I want to say, please stop connecting, be quiet, and get back here and learn something. That is those connections and what we learned here this morning, the innovation and the inspiration that we learned this morning is exactly why you are here. Speaking of making connections and that inspiration and innovation, we do that here at convention, but we are starting something new with our partners at American Bakers Association with something this fall called Nexus. And I know you've seen a lot about it. You're going to hear a lot more about it over the next couple of days, but that's in September of this year, and it's, I think it's, AB&A, we've talked about how it's our future. We're really excited about it. So now we're going to continue with the morning programming and presentation from the Baking Industry Forum, better known as BIF. This is a small group of bakers and suppliers. They've been getting together for about 15 years, and they talk about issues in the industry, and it's wonderful. They sit across the table and talk about how can we solve some issues. In the past, they've talked about training. They've brought presentations on FSMA, on hiring veterans and safety, and so many other things. And we are just super excited. And what they're going to be talking about today, we got Carl Thorson, Justice Larson, Mike Laval, and Jason Stricker. The talk that you're going to hear today and the demo you're going to hear today started in a bus with a couple of them talking about all the challenges that happened over the last few years and some of the solutions they were coming up with, much like Jeff talked about. They were starting to ask questions, and that conversation on that bus is what you're going to see today. So please welcome these guys.
Hello, I'm Jason Stricker, Vice President of Sales with Schickelstev. This will be my fourth convention, and I'm really looking forward to this year's event. If I had to pick just one thing that I love about the industry, I would say it's the passion. The passion that is shared by both bakers and suppliers. There's an energy around that I am confident is going to propel this industry into the future.
Hi, my name is Justice Larson. I'm with the United States Bakery and lead our operations team. This is my second year at convention, and one of the things I've always loved about the baking industry is the endless opportunities to learn something new, and everyone's willingness to share and educate and kind of give out those experiences to help grow the industry.
Hi, my name is Carl Thorson. I work for General Mills, and this will be my 8th year attending convention. I love working with the baking industry, and especially this group, because of the great networking to collaborate, especially in my area of food safety and sanitation. I look forward to seeing everybody.
Hey everyone, my name is Mike Laval, and I've been with the Interlocks Bakery and Snack Team for the last 17 and a half years. I've been attending the BEMA convention for the last 12 years. One thing I love about the baking industry is the relationships and the friendships I've established over the years. Thanks, everybody.
Well, welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us this morning. As Kerwin mentioned, the genesis for this idea did occur initially on a bus ride. He didn't mention that bus was on its way to a distillery tour. And Jeff didn't emphasize enough in his presentation that sometimes great ideas come through conversation and a drink. A lot of creativity can come from that. But we did have our fall BEMA board and BIF meetings in Louisville this past September. And we sat down as a committee and trying to decide what exactly were we going to work on to present here and then also to carry forward in the industry. And as we started to brainstorm around the challenges, right, there's a common thing we've all discussed, and it's around labor, all aspects of labor challenges, training, retention, knowledge, support capabilities, all these types of things. And Justice and Carl really brought this home when they started talking about what both Franz and General Mills have been working on with regard to remote support devices. And we kind of picked up on that conversation and said, we think we can move this forward in a manner that's beneficial to the entirety of the industry, right? Because we're all facing very similar challenges. Suppliers face the challenge of turnover, or just with the way the industry has been lately, having to bring on additional talent. How do we speed up that learning curve? How do we get them up to speed faster? And then how do we better serve our customers? So really kind of the way this thing started, and we hope we've got something good for you guys here to discuss today.
So how many people out in the audience know what a telepresence device is? Show of hands. All right, not bad. How many people have used FaceTime to help a nephew, a daughter, somebody at work try to solve a problem? How well did that work when you're trying to listen to them and then shove the phone into the piece of equipment and then try to listen to them? Not the best solution, but definitely a solution out there that I'm pretty sure everybody's tried to utilize. So what we wanted to kind of talk about today is what are those different technologies that kind of enhance that. So up on the screen you see a handful of different technologies out there. You got Microsoft's HoloLens, you've got Vue6, you've got Google Glass, you've got the HMT from RealWear. So we're going to kind of walk through what those mainstream items are, what those purposes are, and kind of the solutions we've kind of adopted in a few of the different manufacturers out there, and how they've worked for us and how they might work for you.
And even more so, not only from your guys' side, which is driving it, but then from our side, from the suppliers and the OEM side, right? So how can we adopt that technology as well? Why? I mean, what are some of the reasons? What do you think?
I think a big one for us, why we started out at Franz, was we've got a lot of talent out there, but we're really pretty well dispersed. So how do we get that talent quickly into a facility? So if we've got a breakdown, and I've got a chief engineer that lives an hour and a half away, I'm losing that hour and a half, right? For us, it's between $400 to $700 an hour. Every hour we're down, just in labor wages. So that hour and a half of them waiting to come in to help solve that problem, we started eliminating that by being able to use these devices. So now they can get on the floor, get this device going, and pretty instantly be up and running and looking and seeing what the problem is. And we'll kind of walk through some of those solutions and why we kind of gone down that road. But that was kind of the biggest one for us.
Right.
Right, and it was accelerated for us because of the pandemic, right? We couldn't get people into facilities to do audits, to do inspections, to help with troubleshooting, or we want to minimize the number of people, so it really pushed us to think differently about how we're going to help those people and what technology could do. And then there's just so many other advantages with training and things that we'll get into today. So really exciting technology.
Yeah, I think from the supplier side, one of the great benefits is our ability to be more responsive even, as Justice was saying. I mean, hours lost, I mean, that's real money. And so even if we can respond quickly, we still have to get a technician on a plane to a facility, get them set up. You know, you've got time lost in there for what could be a relatively simple problem to solve. So if we can be able to respond, via the RealWear device, HMT or other, and provide that support to a technician on site, maybe it's really a 30-minute fix, but if we've wasted the better part of at least a day in pretty rapid response time for what is a 30-minute fix, we can just help our customers out even that much more. And also, being a field technician is a very difficult job, right? I mean, you're constantly traveling, you're constantly under pressure, you're there to solve a problem that's creating downtime or lost efficiency. So they're not having to travel as much. We save a little wear and tear on them. It's also a more cost-effective means, really, when you talk about the expense of service contracts and getting people out there. So there are a lot of benefits with regard to timeliness, ability to respond. And then obviously from a people perspective, we're not asking so much of those folks who have to be out there constantly in the field, helping our customers solve what could be relatively easy to solve problems.
Yeah, it definitely helps with that quality of life where I'm waking up in the middle of the night, driving out to find out that the problem's already got solved. You can get there instantly and then get back to bed, right? And then you're kind of teaching that person rather than solving it yourself. So it's really helped on our end, that helped that quality of life for the chief engineers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for us, I think it was a kind of an eye-opener. We looked at it as a different tool to use as really a real-time troubleshooting, like, you know, not using a camera, not using a video, trying to get it through. For us, our technical support group, our first line is on the phones, right? Before we send application engineers out into the field. So we kind of stumbled in on this with one of our customers using it for another tool, and we did some testing, and our technical support guys, this is a game changer for us, right? Again, we're not having to get videos approved or pictures or anything. They turn on the glasses, they're right in front of the equipment, the conveyors. Our guys can probably get that issue resolved right then and there, right? No videos, we know all the challenges that go on in the plant, right? So it's a game changer for our technical support guys internally.
Another interesting example, back to Justice's point, during the pandemic, we had challenges where we were developing a lot of new processes for customers at Schick in Kansas City. And everybody was worried about people leaving facilities and coming back to facilities, very, very cognizant of the risks of health and safety for the entire facility. And we rigged up our entire technology center with cameras and microphones, and we used Teams to walk around, but we were walking around with a phone on the camera. We had 2 or 3 people from the customer on site, and we had a dozen on via Teams, and it worked well at that time. It was the only solution we really could come up with. It worked well, but it's still limiting because you've got somebody holding their phone, kind of trying to go around to the different areas, and then you've got a relatively noisy environment in the background as well, so sometimes it's hard to hear. You can't communicate as well. As we're going to demonstrate with this technology, it really eliminates a lot of those problems. We even have had a few of our customers who come into Kansas City for testing have their own devices, and it is actually the RealWear HMT that we're going to display. And they had one person on site, and they were recording the entire thing. They've got really great communication because there's noise canceling in the microphone. And their entire team is seeing remotely exactly what that person on site is seeing. So they flew one person in for testing and trials, and another 6 or 8 in that particular case were on remotely. Everybody got the same first-person experience as the person that was on site. So money saving, time saving, and then obviously just, you know, allowing everybody to see firsthand in a very clear fashion what the person on site is absolutely observing. So
this working? Okay. So why RealWear? Right? We looked at a lot of different options out there. I actually tested a different company for a couple years till they went under and we couldn't use them anymore. And then started diving into what else is out there and what's really kind of built for our industry, and found this device right here. So this is the RealWear HMT. It's called a head-mounted tablet. That's what HMT stands for. It's as simple as they just put it on, get the view there, and they got a camera streaming, and you can hear what's going on. So it's your FaceTime on steroids, essentially, right? So we went down the RealWear path as opposed to some of the others because it allows for all our safety gear. We actually, in our bakeries, we have it mounted to a hard hat. You can put it on bump cap. We can wear safety glasses. The earphones we use are actually hearing protection earphones. You change out the tips, so you don't have to share those. So it solved all those safety issues. It keeps their line of sight open, right? They need to be able to see what they're doing, yet they can still use both hands, be completely cognizant of their surroundings, and then hear somebody coach them through that problem. I mean, how much easier is it to actually learn how to do something when you're physically doing it yourself, as opposed to, okay, I fixed that, now let me show you what I did, and then kind of try to walk through it, right? Are you going to learn it better hands-on, especially your maintenance techs, your production employees, your sanitors? You give them that hands-on experience while you're trying to coach them through that. So we really kind of centered around the RealWear because it's an industrial device. It's made for being out in a commercial bakery or manufacturer. It really came from the oil and gas side of things. It can be intrinsically safe if you're in the milling industry and you have a lot of flour dust. It needs to be rated for that, for explosion proof. They have that solution. So out of all the options that are out there, I know Carl ended up finding the same thing, but we haven't found anything else that really fits all those needs, and I missed something.
We had a similar journey. We tried other things. We'd actually deployed small tablets to all of our facilities to do this same thing, but we really found you got to have it on your person, right? Like I got to get up at elevation, I got to get underneath things, I got to have it in my hands free. And then we tried other things, 360 cameras and stuff, and they have their benefits, but this is by far the best technology that we've found. And we both agreed that this is where we wanted to focus our attention. And there's some accessories that we've found, right? It's got obviously it's got the video camera, but we can take pictures with it. You've got a little flashlight on there that, again, is voice activated for all these things. We actually have sourced a cellular, so it's normally Wi-Fi is the way that we connect with the meeting, but there's a small module that we can connect to it, so you can, again, we all know that some of our facilities have trouble with Wi-Fi, or if you want to go outside or on the roof, you can make a quick switch and go to cellular as well, so there's some great tools there. The other thing I like to use when we're doing this is I carry a laser with me or have the person with a laser, because we want to be, again, laser focused on what we're talking about. If I'm talking about something up at the ceiling, I'm like, I want to talk about that light right there. So it helps us connect better and make sure that we've got the detailed conversation that we need to have.
And essentially, this made it really easy because most of our teams, at least inside the bakeries, we all have Microsoft Teams. Everything's based on Teams. And I imagine most of you are probably in a similar boat where you have Teams already set up. So all our employees on the management side, they're already used to this. So we can make it real easy for them. All they do is put the headset on, turn it on, and then they get a Teams call, and it's all voice activated. Everything you do on site is all voice activated. So they say accept call, and we're off and running, right? So I can see through my computer screen exactly what they're looking at, right? And I can pull up a diagram and show it in their little screen that shows up in the bottom that looks like a 7-inch tablet to them, and they can look through a wiring diagram, right? Or on the production side, they can go and watch the process. We actually used this a couple weeks ago in one of our bakeries where we thought we had a problem with the lamination process, and I couldn't get my corporate production manager out there quick enough. So, simple enough, have somebody put the HMT on Sunday, and it took them 15 minutes. They walked up to the process, accepted the call, walked through the whole thing, did a little coaching, and saved ourselves 3 days of travel, a lot of money in hotels and airfare, and a lot of better life for that employee, right? He didn't have to try to get on a plane on Saturday, be there Sunday, and then try to get back Monday for what he already had planned. So
right, and the realities are, even in the best case, you can't get all the subject matter experts that you want normally, right? So we had a situation a few years ago where we had this issue with cleaning an extruder, right? So we had a unit at the facility. The quality person there was able to put that on. We had my team as well as a vendor online as well with their subject matter experts. We had multiple people that we would have never in reality gotten in place and met. And we were able to really focus on the time when the cleaning was happening. It gave us a great view, right? The quality of the video is great, the lighting and everything. And then we've had really good luck with the earbuds that you talk about, right? Noise canceling, they're safety buds. The speaker, I've gone and stood by really noisy equipment. They can hear really well. I can hear really well. It's been a great tool for us.
And like you said, Carl, multiple people with that Teams platform, right? And we're going to show a couple videos here shortly. And one of them, there's multiple people on the call, and it's really amazing. And at the end, I think either one of the texts mentions that he can hear them better than they were if they were standing next to him at the plant. So it's pretty powerful, pretty powerful.
You've heard from Justice and Carl Baker's perspective on trying other items and really liking the features and functionality of this unit from a supplier side. In order for us to provide greater benefit to the industry with wearable technology like this, it helps to standardize. If we've got to support 6 or 8 different platforms, as an industry, that becomes challenging, having everybody familiar with it and being efficient. So finding something that we can standardize on allows us to provide greater benefit to the entirety of the industry. Again, we all can connect through Teams. We know how to do that. It'll do Zoom. It'll do many of the others as well. We're all familiar with how to connect via those meetings. And so it allows our people on site to be able to jump right into Teams, familiar environment, be having a conversation with the person on site. And that can happen, you know, if that happened 8 different times a day with 8 different customers, bakers, let's say, we're very able to handle it efficiently, right, and not have to bounce back and forth. Oh, they're using a HoloLens or Google Lens, or they're using this, and so I got to do it this way. It just becomes very routine, and through routine, you can be more responsive. Things can happen quicker. Obviously, we can record a lot of things through Teams as well. So that was one of the items, you know, when Carl and Justice had mentioned they've used several different devices, and this one seemed to be good. We really tried to zero in on this. Because it's already lived through the experiences in bakeries with varying workforces. And so again, from our side, from let's say Mike and my side as suppliers, being able to somewhat standardize is really critical to provide maximum benefit to the entire industry.
So as far as bakery applications go, I mean, we kind of talked about, this makes it simple for the end user, right? We got to make it simple for them or they're not going to adopt it. If it's not easy, it's more and more of a challenge going into it, right? We've got the noise canceling with this device. It's probably better than I've seen in anything else. I mean, you can be standing right next to a mixer and not even know it's on. And you can actually end up being kind of a challenge at times. You go, you hear that noise? No, can't hear it. You have to describe it to me. I don't hear the squeak. But it does that well. So if you're in a manufacturing environment, I'm sure we've all been on those phone calls trying to coach somebody through something, you generally can't hear them. This really kind of takes care of that. And then it's that hands-free, right? You can get both hands into there. You don't have to worry about the safety side of things. And then you can, as you're doing, you've probably seen with Teams calls, you can record it. So I've had some midnight phone calls coaching somebody through how to retime a bagger, and I recorded that. And then they use that for training moving forward. Right, then go, okay, this is what happened last night. You can see, here's Jason, he's walking through, retiming the chain, Justice is telling him, okay, you need to get it on this mark, and then they can go back and look at all of this. And then you keep that safety going, right? You got the bump cap, you have your hearing protection, you got your safety glasses on, so it really, as far as bakery applications go, it's been really pretty powerful.
Yeah, that's a great example of kind of that real-time support that we're talking about. It's got additional features. I think everybody in this room at some point has gone to YouTube to watch a video for how to do something, right? And I mentioned to the guys the other day when we were discussing the presentation, you may not realize this, but I'm not a professional mechanic, but I can go on YouTube and watch a video, and I can take the intake off of my car and put it back on, and it still works perfectly fine, right? And so the reason I mention that is you have the ability to embed videos within the device itself, and then by voice activation, the user can call up the videos that they want. So we've got options to do QR code scanning in it. So if your suppliers have QR codes, they can scan that, the device recognizes it, it'll go immediately to the training manual or the operations manual for that. But we can also preload this with videos. So you can basically have your entire operations manual and maintenance manual within the device so that anytime somebody puts it on, no matter what time it is, they don't even necessarily need to call in remotely if they can solve it right there through the instructions. They call up that video, and as Justice said, it looks like a 7-inch tablet right in your viewfinder, so you can read it very easily, step-by-step instructions, and videos also embedded within the device to show somebody exactly what to do. So again, it's power even beyond just the remote connectivity. You know, one of the challenges we're going to talk about later is just within bakeries. Carl had mentioned the cellular functionality and things. That's one method. But if you have challenges with connectivity, you can have embedded video and training material right in the device, and through voice activation, they call up exactly what they're looking for, and it takes them immediately to it. Allowing someone who's not educated, like I had never taken the intake off a vehicle in my life, right? Watched a 10-minute video, and I should have been charging $195 an hour, apparently. So it's really got a lot of available features to help with new employees that maybe aren't familiar, or employees that just need a refresher, right? Everybody as a baker's challenged with not only the training aspect, but the time available for maintenance functions. And so giving somebody the ability to immediately go and see what they have to do, the way to do it correctly right there, not only makes it easier to get that and quicker to get that done, but also ensures that it's going to be done correctly, because there's nothing worse than going through maintenance, starting back up and realizing that you're not operating as efficiently as you should because it just wasn't done quite right.
And I think I've noticed one thing too is the younger generation is more to adapt this technology quicker, right? The old guys that have been around a lot, a little bit of pushback, but I think that's also a tool to attract younger talent, right? Because they want everything instantly, they want everything on their phone immediately. So the younger crowd seems to really have adopted it much quicker than some of the older guys. Right.
Yeah, it's knowledge that creates confidence, right? I mean, we all operate better when we're confident that we're doing it correctly. And so when you're talking about younger talent or newer talent, you're giving them the power right there to know exactly what they're supposed to do. They're going to act confidently when they're doing it. And that's going to help with adoption, right? They're going to want that kind of learning tool that's right on their head, right in their eyesight. There's that learning and training tool that's happening real time while they're performing it.
This is a video of a it was a recorded video of a real-time troubleshooting that we did with a customer a couple weeks ago. Had some issues with some belts being put back on incorrectly, and needed to try to get things resolved relatively soon as production was coming back in. So I'm going to go ahead and play it.
There it is. So we had the interlock switch, and we did some maintenance on the discharge conveyor, and rose a question that we wasn't 100% sure on. So we got interlocks on the line and trying to help us troubleshoot it, make sure we installed it correctly. Chad, if you want to show the routing of the belt,
yep.
We'll let Frank help us out with that.
So this is currently one side of the belt. So it comes down and is going on the back side of this roller. And when they redid this side, they put it on the opposite side of the roller. As you can see here, you can't see the roller. The roller's on the inside of the belt. So essentially what they did was they ran the belt starting here, came down on the back side of this guide roller, bottom of the drive, and then they came this way versus coming this way around. So we just want to make sure the belt is actually supposed to go this way, not this way.
Perfect. That's very clear. Yeah, it should go to the inside, just as you pointed last. So we want that to hug the inside and not the outside of that roller. So good.
Okay.
Hey, Frankie, do y'all have a decal that kind of shows the routing of that belt we can actually install there?
We don't have a decal, but we do have a high resolution image that could be used to illustrate the routing of that setup.
Yeah, hopefully we can put that sticker right there, and that should remove all doubts in the future.
Perfect.
Yeah, if you can get that to us, that kind of resolves the question we have.
Perfect. All right, guys. Anything else we can help you with?
I think that's it. Thank you very much.
So that was multiple people on the call. You had the chief engineer, you had the maintenance tech on site that was walking the floor, and we had multiple technical service reps back at Interlocks that were on the call. So in that short time, they were able to basically validate what was done and put corrective action into place. I think they got it done before startup the following day. So just really, really powerful, exciting technology. I mean, our group is super excited, and it's fallen into our manufacturing team now that they've taken notice, and they're actually looking at the technology in our plant floor.
So one thing you probably noticed was you could hear them pretty clearly, right? And this is inside a running bakery. You can hear kind of the slats moving across a little bit, but for the most part, no problem communicating. But Mike, how long would it have taken to actually get a tech there versus that 3-minute phone call? At least a day, right? So if this was a dire situation and they, put it on incorrectly and you couldn't talk through it, they're a day down on production essentially, or wearing the machine out prematurely because the belt was laced incorrectly, right? So quick, easy, the whole team ran through it, it sounds like, without any challenges. And this is a new device for that bakery, correct? Like this was fairly new for everybody. So if you can set it up, make it easy, which this device can be, it can be really powerful, right?
All right, so the video that we're going to show from Schick was kind of a live controls FAT. This is one aspect that you can also perform with the device, saving travel time to come in and inspect equipment or control panels. So we'll just kind of run through a brief video simulating some of the different aspects, pull tests, comms tests. We actually have at Schick, we have the thermal imaging camera as well. That's an option that you can have with the RealWear HMT, allowing you to check for hotspots inside of panels and things. So again, start out with a little contextual. That's the view on a hard hat right there. There are also clips that you can use to bring it down. That's one of our R&D controls engineers now getting in to start to inspect the panel. And then this would be the live view of just a simple wire pull test, making sure that we've got positive connection.
It's a very clear picture, really easy to read. I mean, if you're trying to troubleshoot an electrical panel, you need to actually be able to see those numbers, and simple enough. This person can safely be at the correct distance, and you can see what you need to see.
Yeah, you can zoom in, again, voice activated, you can zoom in and out through voice activation all the way in, as Justice said, to see actual wire numbers within the panel. And then if you need to zoom out to provide a greater view, let's say you've zoomed in too far and the person wants you to zoom out to see a little bit more of what's happening in there. And again, you just tell it to zoom out however many times and it'll automatically do that. And you get audio feedback when you perform a voice function. You get a chirping noise that tells you that it did acknowledge and is going to perform that function.
So I know I've done one FAT for a piece of equipment out in Italy. It was fairly straightforward, but we weren't going to send two people all the way out to Italy to go through it, but was able to run through it through a telepresence device and able to go through everything we typically go through as far as checklist goes. We'd put the bread in upside down, we'd put half loaves in, had them run the pans backwards. We opened up every safety, see them turn it back on, open the electrical panels, make sure everything was laid out correctly. Able to get through the whole thing in a couple hours and saved us probably a week's worth of travel and a lot of money, and felt very confident when the equipment showed up that it was going to work, as opposed to, well, I hope it all went well. We're not going to send somebody all the way out there. So it can really simplify that, and then kind of like Jason mentioned earlier, you can record it, you can get lots of people on that call. So if you need to have a whole team's worth of people that typically would be going out to these manufacturers, and maybe send one, maybe you just send the device, right? And have them put it on and walk through, because it can be as simple as setting up on a cellular service, and then the person on the other end doesn't need to know anything other than say, accept call, and start walking through and give them direction on what you want to see.
Absolutely. So you're seeing right now, again, in a bit of a contextual format, the left shot is traditional camera, but the right-hand view is the thermal imaging from the HMT, and you can check for hotspots inside of panels. There for a while, some of the manufacturers of these electrical components were having challenges. We actually had an issue with master control relays burning in, getting very, very hot. And until the smoke starts coming out, you don't necessarily know that's happening. So again, with the thermal imaging, you can see that happening right there. Another thing that's helpful, even outside of control panels, let's say you've got bearings on a mechanical piece of equipment that are starting to heat up. If you've got that device on, you can see exactly the temperature of that bearing, know if you're inside or outside of normal operating temperatures. Do you have an impending failure? Do you have something else that's causing that bearing to run hot? It's really a powerful tool, and that can be whether you're just doing it locally, you've got the device on, it'll tell you exactly what temperature it's reading, or if you're in a remote support environment, the technician back at the office can say, yeah, that bearing's not supposed to run at 205 degrees. We've got a problem. Here are likely troubleshooting. Maybe it's shaft alignment or something else that's causing that. And you can prevent a run to failure mode because again, if the bearing's not making noise, it's typically perceived to be going fine, and they don't typically make noise until they just fail. And you get that run to failure moment where now you've got a lot of energy and effort into getting that back up and running when you could have just done a simple visual inspection to know if you're inside or outside of normal parameters.
One of the big things we actually used it for during COVID was customer audits. So, you know, they'll like to come in, they like to watch the process, they like to see the product quality. Well, during COVID, that wasn't allowed. We weren't bringing anybody inside the bakery that didn't need to be there. So we would have our food safety manager put this on and walk through the bakery, and they'd, you know, say, oh, can you look to the left? Can you look at that a little closer? Can you open up the bun? Can I see the slice quality, right? And it's saved us a lot of money and time, obviously, in trying to bring these people out. It made the whole visit a lot smoother, and honestly, our customers seem to like it quite a bit more, being able to have that, where some of their other customers just didn't have that option. And I think you were talking about yesterday some of the options on the thermal, as far as kind of thinking outside the box of where you could use
right,
that.
And trying to identify moisture sources, different things like that. And then the other thing we've used it for is training, right? Like I'll do a global training session, right? And I can walk around and they can see through my eyes as I'm inspecting literally what I'm looking for and be able to share it, whoever can get connection and tie in with us on that. So that's been really helpful for us as well from a training standpoint, education.
There's something important in that, Carl, in that you've got years of experience. You know exactly what you're looking for. Having people follow your eye fall within a facility, right? Not just having to point and say, you get to check this corner, this crack, that whatever. They're walking through almost like they're in your head, following your eye line and knowing exactly what you look at when you go into a facility. I mean, I think that's very powerful. You're transferring years of experience to people and showing them visually. When you walk into a space like this, have this type of equipment in there, whatever it is, this is where my eyes go first. And this is the...
And then being able to field questions immediately. Like it's one thing to just make a video, right, and show them what I see, but to be able to be like, hey, what about this? Why didn't you say that, address this, or why are you looking at that right now? That type of thing is very helpful.
I think training really ties into this. It's another thing I wasn't expecting this to be used for, but we ended up using it just due to the ease of use to be able to build that. And I don't know how many manufacturers out there have put a piece of equipment in, trained the whole crew, and then get a call 2 months later going, yeah, nobody knows what they're doing anymore, I need you to come back out, right? Or you have your veterans go train somebody, and then they train somebody, and then they train somebody, and then 3 or 4 iterations into that, they're missing something. I've been called on multiple breakdowns because somebody didn't realize there was a bearing there that needed to get greased that, yeah, I was trained on how to find it. The next person hopefully was trained on how to find it. The next person missed it, and then it ran to failure, and then we had an oven down and the whole line's down. So up on the screen here is what you typically see for a PM description. So we're relying pretty heavily on that person to know how to read this, and then when they get to the piece of equipment, how to apply it, right? So they needed that hands-on training, and let's say this is not their normal PM, and they got trained 2 years ago. Are they gonna remember where everything is? So the video I'm gonna show you is a couple engineers that are under a year recently got trained on this piece of equipment. And when we first got this and started thinking about it, I gave it to them and said, go make a training video. Just pick a piece of equipment, make it 2 or 3 minutes, and just let's see what happens. So play the video, kind of walk through what that ended up being.
Chris and I are going to give you the rundown on how to do your weekly servicing of the stringline loader. So first, we're going to be taking the machine apart so we can get to everything we need to get to. Just as easy as that. Things you're going to need for this: grease gun, grease rags, a pry bar is handy. All right, first thing, we're going to be greasing the, let's see here, cam followers. We've got 4 of these, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we've got transmissions to grease. Let's see if we can see these nicely. 1 back here, 2, which is probably easier to get to from over here. There it is. And then 3, which is right in there. Kind of an awkward spot. Thanks, Chris. So essentially, get all those greased, and then check for anything that's worn out. Check that the cams roll, which Chris is going to do with a pry bar here to show us how it's done. But essentially, lift up on this and roll the cams. Go for it. If it's rolling, we're all right. Nothing's loose, nothing's falling apart, so we're cool. And then essentially the exact same thing on the other side. That's all there is to it. Clean up any excess grease with your grease rags and make sure you follow all the right procedures for using your grease gun and don't over grease or under grease anything.
Okay, so you've all been trained on how to do the 14-day maintenance on a 970 loader. So in an hour, are you gonna remember how to do that? In a year from now, you can remember how to do that? If I show you that video, or if you can play it while you're doing it, can you do it? And make sure you hit all of those grease zerks that you may or may not know are there, right? So real powerful. That literally took 3 minutes for them to record. So like Jason mentioned, you can embed that into the device itself. If you guys are using tablets for your CMS system, you can just put it right inside that PM task. You can put QR codes on it so it pulls up all these options automatically if your techs are wearing one of these as they're walking through. And it's all voice activated. Scan it, say play video, and then walk through it. And the quality didn't transfer very well, but that is a high quality picture when you're viewing it on your screen. You don't get that graininess that we kind of ended up seeing when you're actually watching that. That is a 1080p high quality video. You can see the little details like we saw looking at those wire numbers. So really powerful, make probably some of the best training videos that I've seen that easily, right? And kind of like Mike mentioned, YouTube, and you mentioned, YouTube's where most of the younger generation's kind of going for. I know if I'm changing a headlight on a car, I'm gonna pull it up on YouTube before I assume to know what all I need to take off, right? And most of you are probably doing the same thing, and most people coming in want to be able to do that. I've seen people inside bakeries look up bakery equipment on YouTube trying to figure out how to do something. Well, you can create those videos yourself and make sure they are what you need them to be and have those caveats on the food safety side, the lockout tag outside before they get into it. So just another use case that we found with that.
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine, Mark, you bring a new techs in and you want to tell them to go out and do something, they may have not been on board long enough to receive a lot of training despite our best efforts. But having that right there, anybody who's somewhat mechanically inclined, and they're probably going to be if they've been hired to be a maintenance technician, is going to be able to go out and know how to work a grease gun, how to disassemble some things, and seeing right there, okay, I'm going to go to that one. You can pause the video. So, that was a 2-minute video, but let's say that is typically going to take a new person 10 minutes to do. You can pause it at any moment and perform that task and then move to the next task. So you know that step by step, you're doing exactly what is supposed to be accomplished and that you don't have to memorize it even from the video. You just stop, you complete the task, you tell it to resume play, it goes to the next task, and you can work your way through that even as a brand new person.
And we've even had it where we've taken new equipment coming in and the tech that's commissioning it and training the crew, we put it on them and recorded the whole thing. So then we have that recording moving forward. So we get a new crew in, we can just pull it right back up and get that original training. So just another use case that we found after the initial remote support, reason of us kind of diving into it. So if you're going to start one of these up, we figure we give you guys some quick tips if you're thinking about this. But really the big one I found was you got to identify those key stakeholders and you got to get IT involved quickly. Luckily for US Bakery, we've got a really great IT team that works well with us. So that wasn't a big challenge for us, but it can be, right? We got to get all these things on the network. You got to make sure they're secure. They have to walk through it. It is an Android tablet essentially, so most of you probably already have something similar on the network. So once they realize that and go, okay, we've got protocols for that. We know they're safe. They can be updated. They can be remotely supported. But get IT started, right? Get with them. Have somebody kind of who likes this sort of thing. Get them involved. They'll get excited about it. It's super easy to manage. I actually set up all of ours originally. So if I can do it, it's pretty easy. And then pick somebody to pilot it, right? And be that champion. So, we started with a totally different device, got everybody excited about it, and then it failed. And then, okay, that became unreliable. I'm not going to use that anymore. Picked up the RealWear device, and it was probably one of the things that I didn't do well was I didn't get that excitement again. Okay, guys, we found a new device. This one works great, works even better, trained everybody on it, but they got so used to the old one not being reliable, it's taken us a while to kind of really adapt it and get back into it and start seeing those powerful use cases. So if you can identify somebody that ends up being really excited about it, they'll spread the word. They'll be asking for it. It's typically my first thing when somebody says, I got to get out there. I say, well, they got an HMT. Do you have to get out there? What can you not do that we can't do this way? And verify you actually need to get there. So you kind of driving it that way, and people start getting that buy-in going, yeah, I really don't like spending time in airports. Maybe I will try that first, right? And kind of run through it. And then how do you simplify it for that end user, right? If it's really complicated, like I found with the previous one, where it took a lot to train them on how to get it set up and get going, it makes it really hard to get that, maintenance tech, that production manager on the floor, or the food safety manager to really want to use it. Where this one, essentially, I asked them, okay, go to the area that we're going to be working on, turn it on, and just wait for me to call. And all I do is go into Teams, I type in lax.hmt because it's got its own account, and it starts ringing. They say accept call, and we're on a Teams call. And they can see me in the little screen there, and I can see what they're seeing as a point of view and just kind of walk it through it. But it took a while to make sure it was simple for that end user, to make sure that we kind of coach that of don't make them go through all the menus and go into Teams and type your name in through voice and call you. Just call them on your cell phone because you got Teams built in. Make it easy, right? And then promote it internally. And then after that, we started scaling it and basically sent it out to all the bakeries. So those are, at least from my perspective, kind of some quick tips on how to make a successful startup, at least lessons learned from my team that you guys might be able to help apply.
I would say that it took longer at Schick for us to figure out how to get the head strap on than it did actually start making it work, honestly. It's that, there are varying appetites for adoption of new technologies, and Justice is right. If it's simple to use and it's effective, you get better adoption. It took longer. We got the head strap on. You get a cue card, comes in the box with it for the voice activated functions, and you just start speaking to it in the words that it understands, and it does exactly what it's supposed to do. So it is truly that simple. And like you say, if you have it set up where the technicians have the Teams connection in there, then someone just has to say accept call, and then you're connected live. And so it is, having IT involved is critical. We all have different security protocols and things. Having them be there for troubleshooting and support is critical, but from an actual user standpoint, it is a very simple device. I mean, it's a little strange how it will ignore the word that's very close to the one it's supposed to recognize. It won't do what you want it to do, but then you go back and you're like, oh, I'm supposed to say it this way, and then it immediately starts working, which is good because it keeps it, when you're having a normal conversation, it keeps it from doing something you don't want it to do by trying to interpret words or whatnot. So again, it's right out of the box, it was ready to go. So.
So Carl, I know you end up having some challenges getting some buy-in on this.
Right. So a bigger organization, the red tape that goes with getting all the security and the questions that come with it. So those have been challenges for us, but the technology has worked great. Like all my tests have gone really well in the applications that we've done. But yeah, you got to get the right people involved and make sure people are comfortable with the technology and the sharing and that type of thing. But I think there's great application for, hey, hopefully in the future we'll have one at every location, right? Or we've got them available, we can send them out to a contract location, or we can send them with somebody to an FAT. It's really easy to bring it with you. It's not a huge piece of equipment that you got to haul with you. So it's, I think, great application for a lot of different areas.
I think one of the other challenges inside the facility, how well are you guys connected, right? How well is your Wi-Fi going throughout the whole area? So if you're doing like food safety tours, right, you got to be able to walk through. So your Wi-Fi has to be fairly strong, or like Jason mentioned, it can go on to from Wi-Fi into cellular, right? So it has that option. So if you're a contract facility and you don't have the security passcodes to be able to connect it, you just send it with that cellular device connected to it, and you're up and running. But so there are some options out there. But really, it's getting that buy-in from the team, because they're fairly inexpensive. I think it was, what, $3,000 with the thermal?
Yeah, with the thermal, it was $2,900, and they can have, you order it online, and it's on. We just got our second one in Kansas City, just got notified like 4 days after order. Yeah.
So they're fairly inexpensive, but they can sit on a shelf if you don't have the team really utilizing it and kind of seeing that power that can be behind it. So getting them bought in on it really is powerful. And then the other thing I really like about it is there isn't an annual fee or a monthly fee that comes along with a lot of these devices that you got to pay if you're using the right software. So if it's built for Teams, you're paying whatever you pay for Teams already. There are a lot of third-party softwares out there that can do quite a bit more. I know, Carl, you went through a couple of those.
But I think that going directly with Teams and the RealWear company, I think has worked out great for us, and we've kind of gone away from using that third party in their platform.
Yeah. So I think the only thing left is what questions might you guys have for us?
One in the back.
Yeah, thanks. Fascinating presentation. Thank you very much. How have you addressed confidentiality and IP concerns that might be present in a bakery if you're going in to do, look at your machine, but you're obviously looking at a lot of other things as well. If you could just address that, I appreciate it.
Yeah, obviously one thing for us is if we have a customer audit coming in, we have NDAs with them, right? If we've got a manufacturer that's going into it, we've got NDAs with them, and then typically if I'm getting Mike's team with interlocks out there, they don't need the tour through the whole bakery, right? You saw in that video, I'm pretty sure you guys took the call when he's standing in front of the switch, right? So you're standing in front of the switch, and you can see exactly that, and the call's ended at that point. So for us, that's kind of how we've addressed it, but for most of it, we're using it mainly internally, right? I've got a lot of experts spread across the Northwest, so if I got a problem in Anchorage, I can get 12 chief engineers all looking at the same problem, trying to address it. I had another problem recently with a 970 oven where we thought the shelves were moving back and forth. And again, my corporate team couldn't get out there relatively quickly, but we got on the phone or on the HMT with them, I think within an hour with the chief engineer out there, and I also had the Portland engineering team who are some of our experts on those ovens, and we watched it. We actually set it on the tray, the oven's cold, and watched the chain go through the entire process, looking for anything. So most of it ended up being a lot of internal use, but definitely if we need somebody out there, we've got NDAs, and then we try to limit kind of what their scope is.
And unless it's not being recorded, as soon as the conference is over, it's over, right? Not having to get a picture approved and send it over. As soon as that meeting is over, unless you're recording it, it's gone. So it makes it very convenient.
Right, so you want to communicate up front, like, hey, are we going to record this? Am I going to take video that's going to be captured? What is actually going to happen? So nobody's surprised with the outcome of that and having that process figured out up front.
At least with Teams, it's pretty good at prompting you, saying, hey, this is being recorded, or somebody's requesting to record. So you should be able to see that.
Oh, whoa, hey, that's hot. We're getting a lot of questions. We're going to take a couple more. We're over just a little bit. I have to, all of you have to raise your hand and say, at the break, you will be very quick and efficient and get back for the next session. So please promise me that. Language, a lot of you guys deal globally with your companies. Does this device help any translations or any kind of, where are you guys at with that?
It's an Android tablet. It can be set up in 9 different languages, I think, most of the major languages. So if you're looking through it, it can be set up so the menus are for, I think, 9 different languages, if I remember right.
Another thing that you can do if you're using Teams, there's a transcription mode within Teams, right? And so if we're having some language or accent challenges or different things, if you're in Teams, you can turn on transcribing mode. And in the bottom of the viewfinder and on the individual who's sitting at the screen, you'll get the text over, like closed captioning, if you will. So that's another area that you can help with that communication, kind of globally across languages and regions.
Right, and I mean, I've done this in other countries during training, right, where you have a real-time translator in the back of the room. I mean, I could see this where you could have somebody on the line, right, and you could have somebody translating real time for you. So I think it's a great tool, and there's great opportunities for the language barriers that we run into.
They wouldn't even have to be in the room, right?
Exactly, they just be on the Teams call, right? Wherever they're located, I don't have to bring a translator into country or into the location, and they could help us with that.
I had a question. Battery life, how does that work, and recharging, and a little more technical?
So it actually, I haven't put it to the test, but it's supposed to be an 8-hour in-use battery life, and you can clip it, just take it right off and swap it. So it's hot swappable.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Justice. There's 8 hours of continuous video operation. It's hot swap. It's got a function where you can snap it off and bring the other one in, and then it comes with charging, and then there's a quick charger as well. So shouldn't be a challenge in terms of battery life while you're using it.
we're probably going to have to cut it there, but fascinating session. You can tell there's still tons of questions out here. So I don't know, we'll kind of talk about what we're going to do with that energy and some of the conversations and things like that. So I'm going to quickly turn it over to Emily, but I'll let her thank you so that everybody can clap for you. So go ahead, Emily.
Group and the committee got together to present this as an introduction, right? And the ask is to the larger group, is this something that we want to investigate further, right? Is this something that we think is viable, is something that would be adopted on a larger scale? If so, then we're prepared to advance this even further. Ideally, another presentation at the Nexus event this September in Dallas, where we would have RealWear experts on site as well. We've got great real-world use cases here, but there's going to be a depth of knowledge with that team that we probably can't provide. So in the survey, just indicate, if you would like us to take this further and ideally present in more depth, more specificity, it's easy to say, in Dallas in September.
Very much for sharing your expertise. I'm lucky enough to get to work with BIF, and they have put a lot of time and effort into sharing their information and their knowledge about RealWear, so we're glad to have them here today. We're very thankful to JLS, the sponsor for the session, so thank you, JLS. Let's give them all a round of applause.